Welcome to another Super Gringo live stream. Today I have notes and no light. As you can see, they're working on the lights in the background. Light. Yeah, Lewis. Lewis. So let's kick it off with some Robert Reich and his bullshit this morning. Trump's 100 days. Grocery prices are up. Stock market's down. Layoffs spiking at 205%. Children with cancer deported. Consumer and worker protections gutted, disease spreading, federal funding illegally frozen, and $26 million plus spent on golf, the world's richest man lining his pockets at our expense. Okay, my response. Grocery prices are down compared to the last 4 years. Stock market fell 9% compared to the 25% in 2022. Layoffs are federal employees, not in the free market. Children with cancer deported. Now, I guess Robert Reich wants to separate families. Consumer and worker protections are strengthened through tariffs. Workers no longer have to compete with foreign competitors. The disease is spreading. That one is just a straight up lie. The executive branch can't stop funding, but it can't say where it goes. I guess Peru won't be getting its gay comic book this year. They could collapse. $26 million on golf at his own resort. Yeah. You notice Bob here didn't criticize Sniffy Joe for spending 40% of his presidency on vacation. Probably a good thing he did, because look at the damage he did when he wasn't on vacation. The richest man paid $15 billion in taxes last year, rescued astronauts who were stranded by Sniffy Joe and the cackling dingus, and has gotten rid of people like Bob here from the government. Also, we no longer have to hitch a ride on Russian rockets to get to the International Space Station. Sit down, stupid. Then I had another idiot on Facebook. You know who took music programs and shop programs out of schools? Yeah, the Department of Education, started by Jimmy Carter and predominantly run by the loony left. Then I shared a synopsis of Chapter 10 from my book, The American Left From Liberalism to Despotism, talking about Gramsci's long march through the institutions, how the radical left infiltrated education and the federal bureaucracy. That's why they're upset with that Elon is firing federal employees. They're losing their power as the radical left is being kicked out of the institutions they fought so hard to infiltrate. I actually really enjoyed going live with just a camera yesterday. No music, sound effects, no crap. Just wish I had notes that I could refer to. So it was a little more organized. Also, I wasn't getting kicked every 10 seconds, so I'm thinking it may be the software. I just saw it again on Facebook about Trump renaming the Gulf. You do realize why he renamed it to the Gulf of America, right? On his way out the door, old Puddinbrain made drilling in the Gulf of Mexico illegal. So, in order to make it legal again, Trump simply changed the name to the Gulf of America, making all those laws null and void. You can't ban drilling in the Gulf of Mexico if there is no Gulf of Mexico. Someone posted this on my Facebook. It actually makes pretty good sense. Does anyone else find it comical that the loony left is saying Trump is illegally deporting the illegals? That's the loony left for you. Newsflash. Radical California Democrats block legislation to make sex trafficking of minors a felony. Maybe they're worried about losing that, MAP voting base. MAP meaning minor attracted persons. Like Sniffy Joe. I do love the loony left sharing AI created photos of Donald Trump, thinking they don't look stupid. First, I simply pointed out, oh no, not an AI created photo. Now that we've mastered our artificial intelligence, until we master actual intelligence, you're screwed. What did they do? Shared another AI created photo. At which point I just pointed out, you're simply doubling down on stupid. See ya in 2028, dipshit. I also shared my book on the American left, From Liberalism to Despotism. You do realize if you follow the Constitution, small government, individual rights, you're liberal. What I call a classic liberal. I'm a classic liberal. By classic, I mean the founders type of liberal. Small government, individual rights. That's an actual liberal. This is why I call today's left loony leftist. They will basically hijack something like civil rights, throwing a bunch of mental illness, LGBTQ alphabet mafia bullshit in there, and say they're fighting for individual rights. No, you just needed something to complain about. Nowhere in the Constitution does it mention gobbling cock. For or against. We shouldn't know what you do in your bedroom, so if we don't know, we can't discriminate, can we? Just saw this stupid post on X. Yes, we have X back in Brazil. If you can purchase U.S. citizenship for $5 million, the illegals are only guilty of being poor. My response: no, dumb shit. They're guilty of not paying and crossing the border. That's a violation of immigration law. That's also considered theft because they didn't pay for the service. Just like I had to pay the equivalent of $4,000 to be a Brazilian resident. Be great if you loony leftists could call Brazil and see if you could get my money back. Then I shared a link to my book I wrote for Brazilians about U.S. immigration laws, and traditions we have to help them come legally and integrate. That's the problem. Integration is not so much them coming; they just refuse to integrate. We don't have a problem with legal immigration. As a matter of fact, we welcome it over illegal immigration. Well, I should probably put my chat on live chat. Yeah, it's live chat. Just saw another person talking about the Carmelo Anthony case on YouTube. Now, Texas does have the best self defense laws. However, Anthony is going to prison. I'm a self defense instructor, I'm a black belt in karate, I'm a firearms instructor. I worked as an executive protection agent on the civilian side, never guarded a president or anything cool like that. However, I do know what the justification for the use of lethal force is. This is pretty much universal, even in Texas. Justification criteria: lethal force. Before bringing a weapon to bear for personal protection, quickly determine if the following three conditions exist. Through their language, behavior, demeanor, another person has demonstrated their intent to kill or seriously injure you. I don't believe a little shit talking or even a shove dictates they're out to kill you. The person has the means at hand to carry out his intention because he is armed with a knife, gun, club, or other weapon, or if unarmed, is physically capable of overpowering you. He didn't have any of those. They were both athletes, both football players. I don't think he was going to overpower him. The physical conditions of the encounter are such that the other person can carry out the attack. I don't really think I need to dig deeper into that one. These conditions warrant the use of lethal force on your part. Keep in mind that all three criteria must exist. Such condition conduct is not justified solely to protect property. You should unequivocally be afraid for your life. Anthony's case is about ego. He was not in fear for his life, he was in fear of his manhood. Those of you claiming self defense are retarded and should sit down. You know nothing about the law. You sure as shit don't know anything about self defense. And if you were any dumber, you might actually hurt yourself. Now, could he get away with it? Of course he could. O.J. Simpson got away with murder. All depends on the jury, depends on the competency of the district attorney. What's going to happen after he gets convicted? Prepare yourselves. There will be rioting, there will be arson. By the way, in most states, because of the unpredictable nature of fire, arson is grounds for the use of lethal force. Why will there be all these things? Because of an obvious murder? Because the left hates accountability. I would rather the kid not be dead. They got in a little tussle and both got suspended. Used to happen all the time when I went to school. Today, we pull out knives and kill people. What's changed? Nobody will answer that. Maybe we need better knife control, like England. They're trying to ban knives. I wonder if it was an assault knife, black with a locking blade. Anyway, that's my take on the Anthony case. Could he get away with it? Yes, because there is no minimum education requirement to be a juror. Now, keep in mind, I haven't confirmed this. I haven't heard any black box tapes. I'm just reading what someone else posted on social media. An investigation has revealed that the female pilot who killed 67 people after crashing a Black Hawk into a passenger plane in DC on January was told repeatedly by her male co pilot to turn before the collision, but she did not heed his warnings. Not only did she ignore her more experienced male co pilot, but also the air traffic controller, which informed her of the oncoming plane. Ironically, Rebecca Lobach, the female pilot, was on her annual piloting evaluation to ensure her skills were up to snuff. Her string of blunders caused the deadliest aviation disaster since 9/11. Again, don't know if it's accurate. I've seen other posts claiming the same thing. Women want equal rights. Well, now she's equally fucking dead like all the men she killed. Um, from the Gateway Pundit. New details about the fatal helicopter crash near DC's Reagan Airport revealed the female pilot was repeatedly ignored warnings from her male co-pilot to turn away, but she flew right into the passenger jet. An American Airlines flight carrying approximately 64 souls collided with a Black Hawk helicopter near Washington, D.C., Reagan National Airport, DCA, in late January. All 64 passengers in the jet were killed. The three pilots in the Black Hawk helicopter also died in the explosive crash. A preliminary FAA report indicated that staffing at the DCA Air Traffic Control Tower was not normal at the time of the helicopter plane collision. According to NBC News, at the time of the collision, one controller was overseeing both helicopter and airplane traffic. Typically, one controller focuses on helicopter activity. Webcam video from the Kennedy Center showed the Black Hawk helicopter flying right into the American airline plane. The U.S. Army released the name of the pilot of the U.S. Army Black Hawk helicopter that flew into a passenger jet, landing at Reagan National Airport 3 days after the fatal crash. The third pilot's name, Rebecca Lobach, was finally released 3 days after the crash so they could scrub her social media. The other two soldiers killed in the crash, identified by the Army as Staff Sergeant Ryan Austin O'Hara, 28, of Lilburn, Georgia, and Chief Warrant Officer 2, Andrew Lloyd Eves, 39, of Great Mills, Maryland. Lobach reportedly had 45 hours of flying experience and served as an aide to Joe Biden. U.S. Army Captain Rebecca Lobach at the White House press. Oh, that's a picture. On Sunday, the New York Times released new details about the fatal crash, and it revealed Rebecca Lobach repeatedly ignored warnings from her right seat about altitude. Lobach's male co-pilot and Army flight instructor directly told her to turn away, and she flew straight into a passenger jet. Not only was the Black Hawk flying too high, but in the final seconds before the crash, its pilot failed to heed a directive from her co pilot, an Army flight instructor, to change course, the Times reported. The Black Hawk was 15 seconds away from crossing paths with the jet. Warrant Officer Eves then turned his attention to Captain Lobach. He told her he believed that air traffic control wanted them to turn left towards the East River bank, the New York Times reported. Turning left would have opened up more space between the helicopter and Flight 5342, which was heading for runway 33 at an altitude of roughly 300 feet, the Times reported. And the fatal mistake, as reported by the Times, she did not turn left. She was an aide to Joe Biden. Interesting. I'm gonna go grab a cup of coffee. I'll be right back. Let me check my poll though. We got anybody in there? Yeah. I'll give if someone I'll give you my take on it if someone actually weighs in. While I was out there, I got coffee and some atum, which is tuna fish in Portuguese. Delicious. Could use some onions though. I like onions in my tuna fish. Weird. Um, sorry, I was hungry. It's the only downside to doing it like this. I don't have a mute button. Anyway, in a recent episode of the Men Need to Be Heard podcast, which I happen to like, the host discusses the frustration men face in relationships with women who exhibit self-absorbed and narcissistic traits. The speaker argues that many women react negatively to men having expectations, such as wanting a partner who respects them as individuals rather than judging them by their financial status. Sound familiar? The discussion highlights a perceived double standard where men are expected to fulfill traditional roles like providing financially and managing household duties, while some women contribute. Yeah, my computer's acting up again. Little to the relationship. The host suggests that instead of trying to make these women happy, an endeavor they believe is futile, men should recognize their worth and seek relationships where they are treated with respect and dignity. The commentary also critiques women who promote similar mindsets, implying that their motives are rooted in loneliness and desire to perpetuate a cycle of misery. Obrigado. Loneliness and desire to perpetuate a cycle of misery. Ultimately, the message encourages men to prioritize their own needs and not settle for partners who do not value them. Amen. I've been watching this podcast for a few days. He's not so much a woman hater, but he definitely does not like fourth wave feminism, much like myself. Now, if you want to get a relationship where you're respected, have your dignity, blah, 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 get a dog. That's how bad women have gotten today with this fourth wave feminism. I'm all for equal rights, but you better be ready to get some equal lefts too. And pay your fair share of the bills and all that good stuff. No more alimony. Yeah, you're all equal. More atu. See, I like it when I have notes. I like this podcast too. In a recent episode of Pat David's podcast, the discussion centered around President Trump's performance during his first 100 days in office, with a focus on how he has under delivered compared to expectations. The host debated various aspects of his administration, offering grades based on specific categories such as attitude, effort, teamwork, innovation, and results. The consensus among the panel, what's up, Seth, um, was mixed, but generally critical. One host gave Trump a C plus overall, praising his ambitious plans but criticizing the messy execution. Another echoed this sentiment with a C plus plus, noting that while the administration started strong with executive orders, it faltered in delivering on key promises. They highlighted issues like the economy, immigration, and foreign policies as areas where results have not met expectations. I'll get to that later because I have some statistics. The conversation also touched on Trump's handling of the high profile issues such as the Epstein case and the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. Again, where's the list? I'm still waiting on the list. Critics pointed out that despite bold promises, significant outcomes remain unfulfilled after 100 days. The panelists expressed concern over Trump's tendency to overpromise and underdeliver, which they believe undermines his credibility and effectiveness. Well, it would help, just spitballing here, if judges would stay the fuck out the way, is which we'll get into like impeachments and stuff later. But yeah, which by the way, he doesn't. District courts have no authority over national policy, none, zip, unless it's in their district. Then maybe they can do something in their district. They have no national authority whatsoever. Despite these critiques, some panelists acknowledge that there's still potential for improvement within the administration. They emphasize that while the first 100 days are important for setting a tone, the true judgment of a presidency unfolds over time. Overall, while Trump's attitude and effort received praise, the lack of tangible results led to a predominantly cautious assessment of his early tenure. The discussion concluded with an acknowledgement that future developments could change perceptions significantly. Well, if everybody would get the hell out of his way, pretty simple. Although there should be checks and balances, I wholeheartedly agree. Um, there are certain authorities that the president has that the left keeps screwing with. Yeah, I gotta take her on his first 100 days. And I'll give at the end. I'll give. Yeah, I know, Seth. Farming, man. That's why I joined the army, so I didn't have to farm anymore. I like that extra hour sleep in the morning. Um, what was it? Oh yeah, Victor Davis was actually one of my professors in college. What does he have to say about Trump's 100 days? The as Oh yeah, you can do that later, Seth. It'll be up there. I don't take stuff down um, because well, this is. I'm actually thinking about responding to people this way too because it's much easier. You too, there, Seth. Have fun planting. Take a rifle with you. Maybe you can drop a deer with knowing he's looking. Um, as the first 100 days of a new administration approach, there is a significant public interest in evaluating its achievements. This period has been described as revolutionary, marked by unprecedented changes that have sparked both enthusiasm and frustration among the populace. Despite media narratives suggesting otherwise, recent polls indicate that Donald Trump enjoys considerable approval ratings, with a CNN poll showing him at 54%. Public perception of polls, contrary to perception of discontent fueled by opposition from the left and centrist independents. Computer's acting up again. Trump maintains a strong base of support among Americans. His administration has made bold moves that have resonated with many citizens. In immigration, Trump dramatically reversed previous trends, securing the border and reducing illegal crossings from over 300,000 a month to nearly zero. He is now focused on addressing the situation of 12 million undocumented migrants, showcasing a decisive shift in policy. Trump's energy policies have also been transformative, moving away from initiatives like the Green New Deal to prioritize domestic energy production. His administration has increased oil and gas output, resulting in a drop in oil prices from $120 to nearly $60 per barrel, while avoiding the depletion of the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. On diversity, equity, and inclusion (DEI), Trump has acted swiftly to dismantle these initiatives in government and corporations, following Supreme Court rulings against discriminatory practices in college admissions. In trade, Trump advocates for fair trade agreements and has imposed sanctions on China, leading to negotiations with multiple nations to address trade deficits. His approach aims to stabilize international relations while countering China's influence. Trump's foreign policy includes renewed pressures on Iran regarding its nuclear program while maintaining a tough stance against Russia. His administration is actively working towards peace in the Middle East and addressing concerns over Chinese companies' practices in the U.S. In conclusion, despite media portrayals of turmoil, Trump's first 100 days have been characterized by significant policy shifts that reflect a counter revolutionary spirit. These changes have not only drawn ire from opponents, but also garnered substantial support from a majority of Americans who appreciate the boldness of his administration's actions. Basically, anything the loony left doesn't like is a good thing for the country. If it makes them scream so loud that they pop a nose ring, I'm happy. I just watched another Victor Davis Hanson video. Now, I have to say it as one of his former students. His voice is as dry as a popcorn fart, but his logic is infallible. His tone never changes, and his cadence is very slow and deliberate. Anyway, on to the video I watched. In this analysis, Victor Davis Hanson reviews the opposition faced by the Trump administration during his first 100 days, identifying three main adversaries: pollsters, the media, and the Democratic Party, along with the broader institutional left. He argues that these groups share a common fear that Trump's administration might not be as chaotic or unsuccessful as portrayed, and that it could lead to a successful presidency. Basically, they hate Trump enough that they're hoping he fails and thus destroys the country with their help, of course. Hansen critiques the polling methods used against Trump, noting discrepancies where polls like those from the New York Times and Washington Post underrepresented Trump supporters. He suggests that similar patterns of inaccurate polling were evident in previous elections, indicating a systemic bias against Trump. I don't listen to polls anyway. They also said Hillary would win by a landslide. The media's role is also scrutinized, particularly in light of scandals surrounding President Biden. Hansen points out that the media has become a significant opposition force due to a lack of alternative agendas from the Democratic Party. He argues that the party is politically cornered, lacking legislative power and leadership figures who can provide a coherent counter narrative or vision for governance. Right now, you have a choice between David Hogg or AOC, Dumb and Dumber. Furthermore, Hansen highlights the absence of a compelling case for returning to pre Trump policies, criticizing the Democrats for failing to articulate any positive alternatives or successes from their time in power. He concludes that the opposition's strategy largely hinges on fear and negative portrayal of Trump rather than presenting substantive policy debates or viable solutions. This fear stems from a recognition that Trump's administration may yield successes that contradict their narrative. Again, they hate him so much, or hate not having power so much, that they're willing to destroy the whole country. Their whole platform is "We hate Trump." They haven't put forth one successful policy. The last decent Democrat president was Bill Clinton, and he did exactly what Trump is doing: fired a bunch of federal employees, balanced the budget. I think after getting to know Hillary, we can kind of forgive the sexual exploits in the Oval Office. If you were married to that, you'd probably cheat too, right? It's the Epstein Island stuff that's the problem. Um, Hold on, let me. Grumpy Farmer is a t-shirt grifter. He always forgets he sells hats and stickers too. I'm an author and book grifter. Have you ever wondered how our understanding of citizenship has evolved over time? In Dismantling the Republic, I dive deep into the fabric of American identity and explore how progressive elites have shaped our current landscape. This isn't just a history lesson, it's a wake up call about the rise of tribal politics and how they are threatening our unity as a nation. If you're ready to challenge your views and explore what citizenship truly means today, grab your copy for just $7.50 on Amazon Kindle, Google Books, and Google Play. Let's unravel these threads together. A little more atum. Good stuff. All right, a little coffee. I'm currently rewriting my book on long range shooting. It was literally the second book I ever wrote. It was written basically like how I shoot and had the bare minimum in it. Didn't explain anything. It just taught you how to use the scope, gave you some basic math formulas, basic concepts in ballistics, and that was it. This book is really going to dive into it. Ballistics alone is 80 pages already. Formulas. You understand new technology too. I found it interesting researching the new technology. They didn't have ballistic computers and stuff when I was learning how to shoot. I had a calculator and a notebook. Of course, I had a spotter, and we didn't have the highfalutin rifles they have today. We had M14s and basically Remington 700s for bolt guns. I got to shoot a Barrett like twice because they were just starting to come out. The old book, I just put the formulas in the back, didn't explain anything about them. Hopefully, the second edition will be more informative. It's for me looking up all the new technology. I'm trying to see if someone will tell me the peephole formula for shooting through peepholes. It's a new formula, but it's top secret. In 1989, they didn't have such things. Remember that loony leftist I told you about earlier, Gramsci's Long March? His response? Absurd BS. I'm from a family of teachers going back 6 generations. This is cherry picked BS. No teachers in our family ever saw anything like this. Are you a teacher? Do you have children in school? Or did you hear that on a radio program, TV news show? These people will be held accountable when the truth is revealed. Let me translate. Absurd BS. I can't prove it's false, but I don't like it. Hear that on a radio program? No, I read it, stupid, right after I wrote it, stupid. You're the problem. I hope you're not a teacher. You're an idiot. Then I reshared the link to the book. 1 in 4 high school graduates can't read above a 6th grade level. At least now we know who to blame. Then I finished up with more evidence. I know who you voted for just by your babbling about 6 generations of teachers. Just saw a great quote on Facebook by a guy named Walter E. Williams. 3/5 to 2/3 of the federal budget consists of taking property from one American and giving it to another. Were a private person to do the same thing, we call it theft. When the government does it, we euphemistically call it income redistribution. That's exactly what thieves do, redistribute income. Just saw the perfect meme in reference to the Second Amendment. It was an M4, probably an AR-15, with the word Second Amendment written on it. It was a wolf tied to the Second Amendment by a rope on the wolf. The left is written. The word, the left, the words. There's a rabbit in front of the wolf, and the wolf is saying, "You don't understand. I want to get rid of it to help protect you." Obviously referring to the Second Amendment. That's why the left wants to get rid of the Second Amendment. They're not against guns. They're just against you having guns. That way, they can more freely send people with guns to enforce their ideologies. This one would have triggered Dick. From today's sponsor, Super Gringo Books, Dismantling the Republic, the role of progressive elites in America's descent into tribalism. This compelling book work delves into the historical evolution of citizenship, tracing its journey from subjects under monarchies to empowered citizens, a journey fraught with complexities that resonate with our current socio-political climate. The book critically examines the silent crisis affecting the middle class, highlights the transformative impact of illegal immigration on national security, national identity, and scrutinizes how tribal politics have eroded our foundational ideals. Moreover, it raises pressing questions about the relevance of our Constitution amidst these changes and challenges us to confront the forces shaping our governance today. I invite you to explore these themes further by purchasing your copy on Kindle or Google Play for just $7.50. Let us engage in this vital conversation about our collective future. Uh, More atún. I prefer real mayonnaise instead of Hellman's. Hellman's is a little too sweet for me. I see people coming and going, and now I'm going to bet those are the very loony leftists I'm talking about. Let me check my poll. I've only got, yes, I'm going to bet Another perfect post about the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment does not grant us the right to bear arms. The Second Amendment denies the government the authority to infringe upon our right to bear arms. A perfect description of rights. Natural rights. Take, for example, the Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights doesn't give you rights. The fact that you're a living human gives you rights. Natural rights, the Bill of Rights just tells you what the government cannot do to infringe upon those natural rights. We are born with these rights. The government does not give them to us. The Bill of Rights just enumerates them. The Declaration of Independence generalizes these rights. Our natural rights are the right to life, the right to liberty, and the pursuit, a lot of you people forget the word pursuit, of happiness. They're just a general expression of our natural rights. John Locke enumerated our rights as life, liberty, and property, which is necessary for the pursuit of happiness. You have to have some property to be happy, some place to sleep, some place to do business, some place to raise your family. So Thomas Jefferson included the pursuit of happiness. And yes, even the founders said there were limitations on these rights. If your right, or the exercise thereof, infringes on someone else's rights, there's the limit. For example, you can't put a nuclear waste dump in your backyard next to your neighbor's house, even though it's your property. So libertarians are wrong there. There have to be some limits because I'm sure your neighbor doesn't want to grow a second head or something. Another Pat Bet David video on the Ukraine mineral deal. In a recent discussion, the signing of a significant mineral deal between the United States and Ukraine was highlighted. Following a meeting between President Trump and Ukrainian President Zelensky, this agreement grants the U.S. preferential access to Ukrainian mineral resources and establishes a joint investment fund for Ukraine's reconstruction, signifying a strong commitment from the Trump administration to support a free and prosperous Ukraine amidst ongoing tensions with Russia. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent emphasized that this partnership aims to unlock Ukraine's growth potential, mobilize American capital, and improve the investment climate in Ukraine, thereby accelerating an economic recovery. And they didn't have to send a single check to Trump's house. The deal is expected to have a positive impact on markets and send a strong message to both China and Russia regarding U.S. intentions in the region. The dialogue around the deal also touched on its geopolitical implications, with commentators suggesting that it represents a strategic move by the U.S. to strengthen its position in global mineral markets, particularly concerning rare earth minerals essential for modern technology, such as batteries for electric cars. The potential financial benefits are substantial, with estimates indicating hundreds of billions of dollars in valuable resources. Furthermore, the conversation hinted at Trump's leadership style during negotiations, portraying him as assertive yet strategic in his approach to securing this partnership. The discussion concluded with reflections on broader themes of support for Ukraine and the potential for peace in the region, with some suggesting that if Trump can help end the conflict, he might even be considered for the Nobel Peace Prize. In addition to these geopolitical discussions, there was also mention of community initiative involving sending care packages to those in need, showcasing a more personal side of engagement within the audience. The conversation wrapped up with promotional content related to merchandise for Mother's Day, emphasizing community values and support for family-oriented initiatives. After they gave Barack Obama a Nobel Peace Prize for basically breathing, they mean absolutely nothing. So nobody cares. Daddy, why would anyone be against Doge? Well, son, probably because those people have been stealing from the taxpayers, and they don't want to give up their grift. Hey there. If you're looking to catch up on the latest news while enjoying a few laughs, tune into the Super Gringo podcast every day at 5 p.m. Eastern. We dive into the big stories of the day with insightful analysis, all delivered in a friendly vibe. Plus, we sprinkle in some funny tales that make the serious stuff feel a little lighter. So why not join our community, grab your favorite drink, and listen in. You'll be informed and entertained in no time. I want to talk to you about something that should alarm every one of us who believes in the rule of law and the integrity of our justice system. Yes, I'm referring to the shocking arrests of two judges. Judge Hannah Dugan from Milwaukee, and Judge Joel Cano from New Mexico. Can you believe it? Judges, those who are meant to uphold the law, are now being arrested for their blatant disregard for it. This is more than a mere scandal, it's a wake up call for all of us. Now, we hear voices from the left crying out in outrage, claiming this is a pathway to authoritarianism. Let's not forget, they've been walking down that road for quite some time. They don't need to arrest judges because many of them are already firmly in their back pockets. Just look at how often judges have blocked legitimate actions taken by former President Trump, actions well within the executive branch's purview. These judges aren't just interpreting the law, they're weaponizing it to delay justice and undermine our democratic processes. What's worse is that they now have cases like those of Judge Cano and Dugan where they've crossed an unforgivable line. Let me share some details with you. Details that might sound almost unbelievable, but are unfortunately true. First up, Judge Joel Cano. This judge had an illegal immigrant on his property, a man armed with firearms, and instead of reporting this criminal activity, he chose to help him cover it up. Cano allegedly destroyed evidence by smashing a cell phone belonging to this individual with a hammer and disposing of the pieces like yesterday's trash. Is this what we expect from someone who wears a black robe? What message does this send when judges engage in such behavior? Then there's Judge Hannah Dugan. During a court hearing involving an illegal alien who had already victimized someone else, she learned that ICE was present in the building ready to apprehend him. Rather than uphold her duty as a judge, she confronted ICE agents, canceled the hearing, and even helped smuggle this criminal into a jury room to evade capture. It's hard to comprehend how anyone could think they're above the law, yet here we are. Dugan has strong ties to Catholic Charities, a left wing NGO cashing in on providing services for illegals while claiming charitable status. How can we trust her judgment when her financial interest may conflict with her responsibilities as a judge? Folks, these actions by Judge Cano and Dugan represent not just individual failures, but systemic problems within our judiciary. A judiciary that ought to be impartial but has increasingly become politicized. Now, more than ever, we must demand accountability. The Trump administration must pursue these prosecutions vigorously without cutting any deals or letting these judges off easy. We need to send a clear message. You may wear a robe and sit on high benches, but no one is above the law, not even those entrusted with its enforcement. As we've heard time and again from our friends across the aisle, no one is above the law. Well, then let's hold everyone accountable, including those who think their position grants them immunity from facing justice. Just want to throw this out there, maybe for a laugh, or maybe just to demonstrate that maybe some people shouldn't be on the bench because they don't have any common sense. The fattest of those two judges decided to try to lead the police on a foot chase. Yeah, like she had a chance to get away. Just to give you a brief synopsis of Trump's first 100 days, he signed 142 executive orders. He's taken 106 questions. He's gotten 26 American hostages released. There have been $5 trillion worth of foreign and private investments in the United States. There have been $160 billion in Doge savings and 65,682 ICE deportations. Another word from the sponsor, Super Gringo Books. Today, I invite you to embark on a journey through the pages of history, through the corridors of ideology, and into the very heart of what it means to be human. We gather here not just to discuss a book, but to confront an unsettling truth, the bloodstained banner that has long waved over socialism and communism. Now, when we hear the terms socialism and communism, what comes to mind? For some, it's visions of equality and fairness. For others, it's memories of oppression and despair. But let's pause for a moment. How often do we stop to question these narratives? How often do we dig deeper than the surface level allure of these ideologies? In the bloodstained banner, we peel back the layers of myth that have been woven around socialism and communism. This isn't just another political diatribe, it's a meticulous examination that dares to challenge our preconceived notions. It takes us from the seemingly idyllic shores of Scandinavian socialism, where many tout success, to the grim realities faced by millions under oppressive regimes across the globe. Think about this. Can we truly attribute Nordic prosperity solely to socialism, or is there more at play here? Let's consider this analogy. Imagine two gardeners tending to their plants. One nurtures each flower individually, allowing them the space to grow according to their unique needs. The other tries to force every plant into a uniform shape, stifling their natural growth. Which garden flourishes? The answer is clear. As we navigate through history in this book, we uncover staggering human costs, stories from Azerbaijan to Vietnam that echo with suffering and loss, dictatorships rising under banners that promised liberation but delivered tyranny instead. Remember this quote by George Orwell: "In a time of deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act." This book doesn't shy away from confronting uncomfortable truths. It invites you in with open arms while challenging you at every turn. It urges you not only to think critically, but also to question those narratives we've been fed for so long. But why should you care? Because understanding these ideologies is crucial, not just for political discourse, but for shaping our futures. In an era where misinformation spread faster than ever before, the bloodstained banner serves as our compass, a tool for navigating complex debates surrounding capitalism and its alternatives. So I ask you, are you ready to challenge your beliefs? Are you willing to look beyond uncomfortable truths? The book offers an opportunity not just for knowledge, but for enlightenment and inspiration. I encourage each one of you today, pick up the Bloodstained Banner, dive into its pages with an open mind, allow yourself to be provoked, whether in paperback or ebook format, or even as an audiobook during your commute. The insights within will resonate long after you've turned the last page. Let us commit ourselves, not only as readers, but as critical thinkers who refuse complacency in our understanding of economic systems that shape lives across continents. All right, that was cool. A little coffee. Actually, that is a good book. One of my favorites. Let me start this segment with a bold statement. The modern political party system is like a flock of sheep. And I don't mean that in a complimentary way. We've got the left bleeding, "I always oppose the right," and then the right countering with an equally loud, "I always oppose the left." Meanwhile, I'm standing here saying, you're both sheep. Now, before you raise your eyebrows or roll your eyes at me, hear me out. These two sides are so busy butting heads that they often forget to articulate why they believe what they believe. It's like watching two kids argue over who gets to choose the game while neither of them know how to play. Think about it. 90% of the time, neither side can adequately explain their opposition. They throw around buzzwords and catchphrases like and memes like confetti. Um, it's all noise and no meaning. A bunch of bleats drowning out genuine discourse. Now, let's get real for a moment. I find myself opposing the left quite often, but guess what? I can articulate why. Maybe it's their approach to policy that feels overly idealistic or detached from reality. But here's where it gets interesting. I also find myself opposing the right sometimes too. And again, I can articulate those reasons clearly as well. Perhaps it's their tendency to lean too heavily on dogma rather than pragmatism. So, why is it that so many people are content being part of this flock? Why do we allow ourselves to be herded by party lines instead of thinking critically about issues? Rhetorical questions are powerful tools. They force us to reflect on our own beliefs and actions. Imagine if we took a step back from this endless cycle of opposition and began engaging in meaningful conversations that challenge us to think differently rather than just echoing party slogans. What if instead of merely opposing each other, we focused on understanding each other? As George Orwell once said, in times of deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act. Let's be revolutionary thinkers. Let's not be sheep following blindly. Let's be wolves and intelligent hunters seeking out truth and confusion and amid confusion. So basically, what I'm saying is, let me fix my chair. I side with the right more than I do the left because the left, well, let me explain when I say like RFK would be someone I could like listen to and have a conversation with, or someone like RFK. The far left, the loony left that I refer to, you cannot. Um, there's nothing to articulate. They're just downright crazy. but there are leftists, or what I call Democrats. There are Democrats and there are loony leftists. Loony leftists believe if you can have a prostate and still be a woman, you're not going to have a conversation with them. They're not going to be able to articulate anything. You just um, hope that they get their dosage right on their Seroquel, and you move on with your life. But center of left, you can talk to them and listen to what they have to say. If they can articulate, then they're people you want to listen to. And that's my point. Be educated so you can articulate why you're. I may oppose what you say, but you need to be able to articulate why you oppose what I say, or I'm just going to call you stupid and move along. Oh yeah, that guy from you assume that I voted, assuming that I am like you, a chess piece on the chessboard, assuming more than you'll ever know, will not bode well for you. Here's a question I bet your money will not be able to answer. Who is Dulles, and what is the significant to your significance to our modern state of decline? And I answered his question because I was not educated during CRT and gender ideology. John Foster Dulles served as the U.S. Secretary of State from 1953 to 1959 during a pivotal time in the Cold War. His tenure is marked by an aggressive anti-communist stance characterized by a militaristic approach and the strategy of massive retaliation, which promised strong military response to Soviet aggression. Dulles' policies aimed to curb Soviet influence through military buildup and the formation of alliances like NATO. Yet this often led to support for authoritarian regimes in various regions. Dulles' interventions included the overthrow of Iranian Prime Minister Mohammed Mossadegh and coup against Guatemalan President Jacob Arbenz. Actions justified by fears of communist influence, these decisions contributed to long-term instability and the erosion of democratic institutions in those nations, fostering authoritarianism instead. His policies also exacerbated nationalist sentiments in places like Southeast Asia, where U.S. support for local elite was perceived as neo-colonial interference. The long-term implications of Dulles' aggressive foreign policy led to increased global instability and distrust toward the U.S. as countries began to reject American influence and align with the Soviet bloc. The shift damaged U.S. credibility and resulted in prolonged conflicts, exemplified by the Vietnam War. Understanding Dulles' impact is crucial for analyzing contemporary global dynamics, where the rise of populism and authoritarianism can be traced back to Cold War policies. Current geopolitical tensions reflect historical precedents set during this era, emphasizing the need for a reevaluation of foreign policy strategies that prioritize diplomacy over militarization. The call for international cooperation is more pressing than ever to address ongoing global challenges such as climate change and humanitarian crises. Overall, Dulles' legacy illustrates the complex interplay between foreign intervention and national sovereignty, with lasting effects on global stability. Have you ever wondered how the principles that shaped our democracy will resonate today? My book, Consent of the Governed, takes you on an enlightening journey through the Federalist Papers by Hamilton, Madison, and Jay. It's not for the scholars, it's for everyone who cares about our government's future. Each essay dives into timeless themes like political philosophy and individual rights, showing how these ideas are crucial in today's world. So if you're ready to engage with your role as a citizen and explore what consent really means in our democracy, grab your copy today. Let's rediscover the power we hold together. $7.50 on Amazon Kindle and Google Play. I was watching Tim Pool on Piers Morgan. The discussion centered around Congressman Sri Tanadar's recent move to impeach Donald Trump, which Tim Pool dismissed as self-serving political tactic amid a lack of Democratic leadership. Tim Pool argues that Tinadar's reason for impeachment, citing Trump's low approval ratings and actions like tariffs, were unfounded and non impeachable offenses. He criticized the fluctuating nature of political polls, suggesting that they were unreliable indicators of Trump's standing with the public. Tim Pool recounted his experience on Piers Morgan's show, where he confronted Tinadar about his claims, emphasizing that the impeachment effort seemed more about gaining attention than addressing legitimate grievances. Tim Pool further highlighted the absurdity of Tanadar's arguments, particularly regarding the deportation of a U.S. citizen child, which Tim Pool claimed had been misrepresented. The conversation also touched on broader themes of political maneuvering within the Democratic Party as they scramble for relevance ahead of the 2028 elections. Tim Pool expressed pride in their consistent stance that Trump's polling numbers do not justify impeachment and critiqued the Democrats for what he sees as desperate attempts to undermine Trump rather than focusing on substantive issues affecting Americans. Overall, Tim Pool portrayed Tanadar's impeachment efforts as a misguided and opportunistic reaction to shifting political dynamics rather than a serious constitutional challenge. Tim Pool concluded by reflecting on his media appearance and reiterating his belief that the current political climate is characterized by sensationalism rather than genuine concern for governance. Um, a good take on foreign aid. Foreign aid is taking money from the poor people of a rich country and giving it to the rich people of a poor country, by Ron Paul. I live in Brazil. I know this for a fact. Something funny for Bob Reich and Bernie Sanders. I personally think it's hilarious when people become rich by writing anti capitalist books and selling anti capitalist merch. The irony of individuals achieving significant wealth through the creation and sale of anti capitalist literature and merchandise is something I find particularly amusing. It raises a thought provoking contradiction. How can one critique the capitalist system while simultaneously benefiting from it? This phenomenon often leads to humorous situations, especially when public figures like Bob Reich and Bernie Sanders are involved. They advocate for economic systems that prioritize equality and social welfare, yet they, too, exist within a framework that allows them to profit from their critical viewpoints. It's almost as if they are navigating a paradox where their messages against capitalism inadvertently contribute to their financial success. This interplay between ideology and commerce makes for an entertaining observation in today's socio-economic landscape. Basically, they talk you suckers into buying their books about anti-capitalism, and then you scream against capitalism because you're poor, because you keep buying their fucking books. My books are about capitalism and freedom from Super Gringo Books. Imagine having the expertise to keep leaders safe from potential threats. That's the world of executive protection. My new book breaks down everything from pre event planning to the latest trends in technology that shape our strategies today. It's packed with practical tips on essential skills and ethical considerations that every EP specialist should know. If you're curious about this fascinating field or need insights for your own safety protocols, check it out for just $7.50 on Amazon or Google Play. Let's make safety great again. Rural Middle Georgia now has 1 gig fiber internet thanks to Bernie's infrastructure bill, and basically everyone available happily signed up for it. Lots of Trump supporters are happy with it. Look it up. That was a loony leftist on one of Grumpy's videos. Let's take a moment to talk about something that's on everyone's mind: inflation. I can see it in your faces, the worry, the uncertainty. It feels like we're all trying to stretch our dollars just a little bit further while the prices of everyday necessities seem to rise with every passing week. Groceries, gas, rent. They're actually on their way down. These are not just numbers on a screen, they are the heartbeats of our daily lives. And today I want to dive into concerns surrounding government spending and its potential role in this inflationary tide. Now, let me ask you this. When was the last time you went to the store and didn't feel that little pang of panic as you checked out? How did it get so expensive? You might wonder. You're not alone. Many people are genuinely worried that massive government spending is contributing to these rising prices without delivering any immediate benefits. It's like ordering a fancy dinner at a restaurant only to discover that your appetizer costs more than your entire meal at home. Critics argue that when the government pours money into various sectors, be it infrastructure, education, or even high speed internet, it doesn't always translate into tangible relief for families struggling to make ends meet. Take a moment and think about it. If you're scrambling to put food on the table, how does having access to high speed internet help you? Sure, it sounds great on paper. Who wouldn't want faster downloads or smoother video calls? But when you're facing skyrocketing grocery bills and rising rents, those shiny new tech advancements can feel pretty distant. And here's where we need to really listen. Families across this nation are feeling the squeeze. A recent study showed that nearly 70% of Americans believe their financial situation is getting worse due to rising living costs. That means many folks are prioritizing their grocery lists over gigabyte speeds. We need policies that address immediate needs before we start investing in long term benefits. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that government investment isn't important. It absolutely is, but what we must do is find a balance, a way for us to invest wisely without adding fuel to an already roaring fire of inflation. We need strategies that directly address what keeps families up at night: food security, affordable housing, and accessible health care. As President Franklin D. Roosevelt once said during tough economic times, the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Let's take his words as inspiration, not just for reassurance, but as motivation for action. We cannot let fear paralyze us. Instead, we must channel it into thoughtful discussions about effective policy changes. Let's take a moment to imagine something together. Picture a neighborhood bustling with families, children playing in the street, and homes filled with laughter. Now imagine that this neighborhood has access to fiber internet, the fastest connection available. Sounds great, right? But here's the kicker: just because fiber is available doesn't mean everyone can afford it. You see, having access to high speed internet is like having a shiny new car parked in your driveway. Looks fantastic from the outside, but if you can't afford the gas or the insurance, it just sits there gathering dust. And that's exactly what we're talking about today. Access does not equal affordability. Now, let's break this down. High speed internet plans often come with hefty price tags that low income families simply can't manage. Sure, your neighborhood might boast gigabit options that promise lightning fast downloads and seamless streaming, but if you're already pinching pennies at the end of each month, paying for that luxury isn't just difficult, it's downright impossible. Take a moment to think about this. What good is high speed internet if you have to sacrifice groceries or rent to pay for it? How do we expect our kids to complete their homework online when parents are struggling just to keep the lights on? The truth is simple. Affordability should be part of the conversation when we talk about accessibility. And this isn't just theory, it's reality for many families across our communities. According to recent studies, nearly one third of American households cannot afford broadband service at its market price. Think about that number. That means millions of people are effectively cut off from opportunities because they lack reliable internet access, not because they don't want it or don't live in an area where it's offered, but because they simply can't pay for it. As we gather here today, I urge you all to consider this crucial point. We need to advocate for solutions that bridge this gap between access and affordability. We need policies that ensure everyone has not only access but also financial means to utilize these services without sacrificing basic needs. That means lowering inflation. That means the government needs to stop spending money on bullshit. Like, I don't think Peru really needs a gay comic book. Do you? I don't think Ireland needs a LGBTQ play. It's not. We don't care who you sleep with. It's not really worth earth shattering. I'm gonna go get a cup of coffee. Ah, good stuff. Um, from Facebook, a response to my paper titled "The Top 10% of Earners Pay 72% of All Taxes Taken in by the U.S. Government," which basically says the distribution of tax burdens in the U.S. has been a long-standing topic of debate, particularly in light of recent data showing that the top 10% of earners account for approximately 72% of all federal taxes collected. This essay examines the implications, causes, and potential future impacts of this statistic on tax policy and economic equity. The U.S. tax system is primarily progressive, meaning higher earners pay a larger percentage of their income in taxes through a tiered income tax system with 7 brackets ranging from 10% to 37%. Individuals earning over $523,600 fall into the highest bracket, while high income earners often utilize various tax deductions and incentives that lower their effective rates. They still contribute significantly to federal revenue. The top 10% consist of households earning around $200,000 or more, encompassing a diverse array of professions. A key factor in their substantial tax payments is the wealth accrued through capital gains, which are taxed at lower rates than ordinary income. This discrepancy raises debates about fairness and equity within the tax system. The heavy reliance on the top 10% for government revenue poses risks for economic stability. In times of economic downturns, fluctuations in high earners' incomes could lead to significant declines in tax revenue. Conversely, their contributions are vital for funding public services such as healthcare and education. The concentration of tax payments among a small group raises concerns about socioeconomic equity. Critics argue this system perpetuates wealth disparities, while supporters claim high earners can afford to contribute more, promoting social welfare through a progressive tax structure. As income inequality grows, discussion about tax equity become increasingly pertinent. Legislative proposals have emerged aimed at increasing taxes on the wealthy, including initiatives from the Biden administration to raise taxes on individuals earning over $400,000 and minimum tax proposals for billionaires. These measures seek to address concerns over tax loopholes benefiting the ultra wealthy while balancing revenue generation with economic growth. Public perception significantly influences tax policy, especially as income inequality becomes more pronounced. There's a rising demand for transparency regarding tax allocations, with movements advocating for tax justice gaining traction. Educating the public about tax contributions can foster informed engagement in policy discussions. The statistic that the top 10% pay 72% of U.S. taxes highlights the complexities within the American tax landscape and ignites discussions on economic equity and government funding. Future tax policy must balance revenue generation with equitable distribution to address ongoing challenges related to income inequality and economic instability effectively. Understanding. The loony leftist. Interesting. Still not enough, though. And you wonder why the loony left is so poorly educated, but so totally indoctrinated. Um, I was watching an old Larry Elder short from when Sniffy Joe and the Cackling Dingus were still in office. I don't get Fox News or MSNBC here, just some CNN International. But Larry Elder reflected on his experience watching various news networks, particularly Fox, CNN, and MSNBC. He expressed frustration over the consistent focus on Donald Trump by CNN and MSNBC, often within 25 seconds of tuning in, while these channels neglect significant issues like the ongoing border crisis. The Larry Elder highlighted the reporting by Fox's Bill Malusian, who documented the influx of illegal immigrants from around 140 countries at the U.S. border, emphasizing that many were unvaccinated and unvetted. Larry criticized CNN and MSNBC for their prolonged silence on this issue until Texas and Florida governors began sending illegal immigrants to northern cities, which forced mainstream media to cover it. He also mentioned a poll indicating that Americans vastly underestimated the number of illegal immigrants entering the country, illustrating a widespread lack of awareness about immigration issues under President Biden's administration. Overall, Larry critiqued media bias and the public's misinformation regarding immigration status. So let me check my poll. And I think only one person weighed in, and they said that how would you rate Trump's first 100 days? I got one good. Me, I could care less about the first 100 days. Um, Usually, the first year, I'm playing the long game. Um, I want. I want to see what the loony left is going to do if they're going to keep. Uh, he's got 4 years total to get everything done. I think that's why he's in such a hurry. But anyway, I'm playing the long game. I'm going to check back maybe in a year, and we'll see how things are going. We already have countries negotiating over the tariffs. Hopefully, with the U.S. and the Ukraine mineral deal, maybe we can get peace in Europe. Um, to be honest, you Europeans, this is the third war you fuckers have gotten us involved in. How about you all settle the fuck down over there? Um, George Washington warned us about this in his farewell address. Let Europe fight its own fucking wars. So that's it for today. You all have a good day. Won't see you until Monday. I don't do live streams when the wife is off from work, well, for obvious reasons. Peace out.